On today's Two on Your Side town hall, the CDC now says most Americans are safe going without a mask indoors, including in schools. Details on the big change and answers for parents who still aren't sure about getting their kids vaccinated. Plus, historic nomination. President Biden announces his pick to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court. She would be the first black woman on the nation's highest court in its 223-year history. We'll tell you all about her coming up. And this week would have been the week diehard baseball fans flew to warmer climates for the start of spring training, but that's been delayed. Our Verify team looks at the Major League Baseball owners' lockout coming up. Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Dudzik in for Michael tonight. We begin this half hour with the crisis in Ukraine and its implications here in the United States. We're going to discuss how what's happening there impacts all of us. But first, a look at what could be a difficult night ahead. Russian ground forces are bearing down on the capital of Kyiv in an unprovoked attack. They're attempting to gain control and take over. It is dangerous there tonight. Residents are getting ready to fight, take shelter, or get out, with the death toll there well over 100. The Ukrainian president is pleading for help from other countries. The State Department says it has been in touch with U.S. citizens still in Ukraine, but President Biden says he will not send troops there to help them evacuate. And while many Americans may prefer the U.S. stay neutral, the violence and political fallout may in fact impact our local economy. Two on Your Side's Ron Plants is sorting out those details for us tonight.
So the signs of the times right here, right now, as gas prices just keep moving on up, even before the Russian move against Ukraine. And earlier today, the latest educated guess, and yes, our Western New York prices are higher now,
will eventually lead the national average to rise to $3.75 a gallon, perhaps higher. That could occur in as little as 1 to 2 weeks. That could bring us on the road to a $4 a gallon national average by May. And then beyond that, the all-time record high is $4.10 from 2008. We certainly could strike that by April or Memorial Day weekend.
Obviously, Ukraine is a factor, but our economy also rebounding from the pandemic when people were not driving. And when about 2 years ago, the per barrel price of oil actually went below zero for the first time in history. And again, we have to think beyond Western New York.
These are global markets, and people just have to accept that.
Also, for perspective, another current fuel source like natural gas, also produced by Russia for Europe, whereas the U.S. has more of a domestic supply. Ogoric has this point.
I think that there is a misperception out there about energy pricing, and specifically gasoline pricing. On every other corner, they see gasoline prices posted. It's right in their face, very sensitive to that.
But he says the average consumer has no idea of the price of natural gas, which heats our homes and runs many appliances.
Just as an example, our cost, per million BTUs is right now about $4, $4.50 for that unit. When you go to Europe, it's about $26. Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
So things may not be as bad as we think they could be with our economy, although again, it's global and pandemic recovery inflation is roaring at the highest point since 1982. So the Federal Reserve may start raising interest rates to compensate, and loaning money may be more expensive. Also, toss in supply chain issues.
We will have typically less choice. We're going to have longer waits, and we're probably going to have higher prices. None of those things are really great for financial markets or for stocks.
However, before you start panicking and paring your portfolio to cash out, remember this.
Historically, stocks have been one of the best inflation hedges. So you are going to have some element of volatility, but you also are going to have your purchasing power protected over time.
So, hold on with our economic roller coaster. We've seen price shocks with energy, inflation, and world tensions before, the good old 1970s for those who were alive back then. And somehow we survived, Kelly.
Ron, are the experts telling you anything about the economic outlook for the U.S. longer term?
All right, no crystal ball to avoid recession or anything like that. That's the big concern. There's optimism our Federal Reserve can make some moves to tamp down those prices. But again, the unknown we didn't have in the 1970s, how we continue to recover from the pandemic. with all the government stimulus spending and still struggling businesses and all that impact on the economy. Let's hope for the best.
All right, Ron Plants, thank you. And you may soon start seeing businesses take a stance on the situation in Europe. This liquor store owner in Wichita, Kansas, took 3 different Russian-branded vodkas off its shelves this morning, more than 100 bottles. He's even going as far as dumping some of it out. And while you may not know anyone personally from Ukraine, what's happening there now may seem far away, but an expert on Ukraine tells Anastasia Bolton from our sister station in San Antonio that if Russia isn't stopped, it's dangerous to think how far its leader will go.
Let's start here.
The United States can't fix every problematic place in the world.
This, some Americans feel in their bones.
Обстоятельства требуют от нас решительных и незамедлительных действий.
But what Russia's Vladimir Putin is doing to Ukraine can reach America. In fact, some of his efforts already have.
The Russian intervention in the U.S. elections in 2016 is really only part of their capabilities.
Emily Channel Justice is an expert on Ukraine at Harvard. The university has an entire institute that promotes the knowledge of the country. Ukraine has a history of being repressed by its Russian neighbor, way before this new war.
What the high stakes are is that Vladimir Putin is trying to show the world that his version is better. He is an autocrat, and he is basically saying democracy doesn't work, it's a failure, and we will crush it if we don't want you to have it. If we let him do this, we're saying that autocrats can decide how the world works. And in my opinion, that's unacceptable.
Channel Justice says the U.S. is vulnerable to Russian disinformation and cyber attacks.
The influence that Russia might have over U.S. domestic politics, in addition to world politics, that's a real threat that people should be concerned about. To say nothing about his veiled threats about nuclear war.
Putin made the threat in his Wednesday speech, announcing Russia's assault on the sovereign nation.
Not to sow panic at this time, I just think we have been caught underestimating Putin the past 20 years. And I want to make sure we don't do that in the next few days.